Indonesia is bursting with ancient temples and is known for its most beautiful beaches on the planet. But did you know there is a place in Indonesia called Sex Mountain where they ask people to find a stranger to have sex with? In addition, they would also dig the dead out of the soil and give them a hot bath. Let's explore 15 shocking facts about Indonesia that will surely leave you speechless. 15. The Intimacy Festival. Indonesia is a country with a Muslim majority, so it might be surprising to people that the Pawn or Intimacy Festival actually encourages married couples to have sexual relationships with others. The religion of Islam has strict laws about adultery, but this festival is celebrated by hundreds of people in Indonesia. This happens on top of Mount Kemukus, which is also known as the Sex Mountain. It is a Javanese shrine in the Sragen Regency in Indonesia. According to legend, in the 16th century, Prince Pangeran Samodro had an affair with his stepmother, Nyai Ontrowulan. Together they ran off to Mount Kemukus and committed incest, but before they could finish, they were caught in the act by soldiers and local villagers. The couple was killed off and were buried in a single hole. The Pawn Festival is to honor the prince, and that is why a shrine was built on the same spot. People believe that if two strangers have sex at this place and finish the incomplete act of the revered couple, then they would receive blessing and good fortune from Ontrowulan herself. The day when this festival is celebrated is an auspicious day on the Javanese calendar. Pilgrims come together in large numbers to make prayers and offerings at the grave of the royal couple. Then, the pilgrims wash themselves in the sacred waters of the hill. After this, every pilgrim must find a stranger and have sex with them on the hill. People also exchange contact details, because they must meet and have sex with the same stranger every 35 days, for 7 times in total. Soon after the ritual first began, the place was overwhelmed with pilgrims. There were people making out in the open or under the trees. This led to hostels and motels being built, which turned the place into a tourist attraction. The locals as well as the government benefited from this, as tourism started generating a lot of income. However, the pilgrimage was soon corrupted by the growth of the sex trade and prostitution. Conservative Muslims also started protesting against the rise in adultery, and there was an increase in the number of HIV and other STD cases as well. The government had to step in, and a large portion of the local businesses had to be shut down. Strong believers in the legacy of the prince still follow the ritual religiously under the trees. One version of the story says that the prince himself advocated for adulterous relationships. Whatever may be the case, believers think that this act helps them gain better income and reduces the number of problems in their lives. What do you think of this ritual? Share your thoughts below. 14. The archipelago with over 17,000 islands. The Indonesian state is a collection of islands from the Malacca Strait near Thailand, all the way down to New Guinea in Oceania. For context, if a plane were to fly from one end of Indonesia to the other, it would take roughly around 12 hours. According to the CIA World Factbook, there are 17,508 islands in total. However, people argue that some of these may be tidal islands. Their number changes frequently as smaller islands often disappear and other ones pop up. The thing that is agreed upon universally is that Indonesia is the largest archipelagic state in the world. Some of the major islands include Java, Borneo, Sumatra, Maluku Islands, and New Guinea. Each island is unique with its own cultures and traditions. There are the beautiful beaches of Bali, the volcanoes in Java, and rainforests in Sumatra. And some islands combine all three. Have you ever been to Indonesia? Leave your comments below. 13. Largest Buddhist temple in the world. The Borobudur Temple is located in central Java, and it is the biggest religious site for Buddhists. It is said that the temple was constructed during the 8th or the 9th century. The temple was made out of volcanic rocks and has 9 platforms in total. The whole building is decorated with 2,672 relief panels, along with 504 statues of Buddha. It is considered to be the biggest and most complete collection of Buddhist reliefs on Earth. Evidence suggests that the temple was abandoned in the 14th century. This was after the decline of Hindu kingdoms and the conversion of Javanese to Islam. The Borobudur Temple attracts thousands of Buddhists on pilgrimages every year, and it is a hotspot for tourists as well. 12. Most exotic animals in the world. Indonesia is known as the Lost World of Asia, and it is home to some of the rarest and most exotic animals in the world. Sadly, many of these species are reaching critically dangerous levels of endangerment. Some of these animals include the Sumatran tiger, Sumatran rhinoceros, merak or peafowl, elephants, gibbons, macaques, and sea turtles. The whole place is absolutely buzzing with these beautiful animals. Even the world's smallest buffalo, the anoa, and the rarest of primates, Tarsius tarsier, can also be found here. Indonesia is one of 2 places in the world where people can still see orangutans in the wild. There are 3 types of orangutan in total: the Bornean orangutan, the Sumatran orangutan, and the Tapanuli orangutan. All of them can be seen in Indonesia. Over 3/4 of the orangutan population in the world live in the forests of Indonesian Borneo. This makes it the most important habitat for these creatures, especially because they are endangered. Indonesia is also home to the infamous Komodo dragon. In fact, this is the only country in the world where these giant lizards can be seen in the wild. They are the largest species of lizards ever found, as they can grow up to 10 feet in length and weigh up to around 300 pounds. These creatures can be found on Komodo Island and some of the other neighboring islands. They have a venomous bite which they use to kill their prey, and they sometimes even attack animals much bigger than them. This includes humans as well. According to reports, only 3,500 Komodo dragons exist today, and they too are endangered. Although Indonesia only makes up for 1% of the Earth's total landmass, the rainforests here are full of life. They provide shelter to almost 10% of plants, 12% of mammals, and 17% of birds in the world. This makes it one of the most attractive destinations for all nature lovers. 11. Hottest spot on the Ring of Fire. Indonesia has been subjected to some of the most devastating eruptions on Earth in recent history. In 1815, the giant eruption of Mount Tambora became the largest known eruption in the world. Its effects were so severe that in the following year, Europe had no summer. Almost 40 cubic kilometers of ash were produced as a result. Almost 90,000 people lost their lives due to this. In 1883, there was another catastrophic eruption in Krakatoa on the volcanic island of Lampung. This registered as 6 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index and caused gigantic tsunamis that claimed around 36,000 lives. 2/3 of the island was also destroyed as a result. More recently, in 2010, Mount Merapi erupted. The volcanic activity began in late October and continued well into November. This eruption registered at 4 on the explosivity index and released a sulfur dioxide cloud that went thousands of feet into the upper troposphere. Indonesia is located along the terrifying Pacific Ring of Fire. This is an active belt for earthquakes and volcanic activity, and it runs from Chile all the way to Southeast Asia. Indonesia has the highest number of active volcanoes, which is somewhere around 130. 10. Coffee from animal waste. When the Dutch colonizers seized power in the 1600s, Indonesia became the largest producer of coffee in the world. By the 1800s, the Dutch were essentially bankrupt, so they handed over all of their lands to the Dutch government or East India Trading Company. Farmers were now forced to work the land, but instead of owning their crops, they were supposed to hand over their produce to the government for a meager wage. This is when the luwak, or Asian palm civet, came into play. This narrow-nosed, long-tailed weasel consumed coffee cherries, but the coffee beans were left unaltered in their digestive system. The farmers started to collect, clean, and roast these coffee beans from their feces. They could enjoy coffee without risking the wrath of the government. However, the Dutch soon discovered what was happening and were stunned that the brew was superior to their own. The beans fermented in the intestinal tract of the weasel were sweeter and less acidic. Soon, wealthy Europeans were willing to pay top dollar for it. Even today, the Kopi Luwak is one of the most expensive coffees sold in the world. It is still mainly produced in Indonesia, and it can cost up to around $600 per pound. 9. Obsession with frog legs. In France, frog legs are a delicacy that can be found in almost all restaurants. However, France has laws protecting the hunting of frogs, so the food industry turns to Indonesia for an endless supply. Most of the frogs are exported from the archipelagic nation in South Asia, but the exact number is almost impossible to determine. Given the biodiversity of the region, frogs are critical to the local ecosystem because they are both prey and predators. They are instrumental in controlling the population of pests, such as mosquitoes and grasshoppers. Thousands of tons of frogs are consumed every year throughout the world. Most of this is in Europe, and more recently in the United States. There are no official laws protecting frogs in Indonesia, and this might impact the country's ecosystem. 8. Magical lakes. There are 3 identical lakes side by side in the Ende province. These mystical bodies of water are located at an altitude of more than 5,500 feet on the summit of Mount Kelimutu. 2 adjacent lakes are known as the Enchanting Lake and the Lake of the Young Man. These are known for their hues of leafy green and coppery red. The more distant one with a sky blue tint is called the Lake of the Elderly. The locals believe this is the resting place of their ancestral spirits. The red lake is for the spirits of people who committed crimes. The white one is for their elders, and the blue lake is for the spirits of everyone else. The most interesting thing about these lakes is that they can change color at any time of the year without any set patterns. Only the luckiest of travelers can witness this spectacle. According to legend, the changing hues are because of the mood of the ancestral spirits living in this sacred area. No scientific studies have been conducted on these beautiful lakes, but researchers have a theory. They believe the changing colors are caused by gas venting from the holes beneath the bottom of the lakes. As gases are released, they interact with the minerals in the lake, which causes the water to change color. The Indonesian Institute of Science thinks that if the water in a certain lake turns dark gray, then it is a sign that a volcano is about to erupt. Unlike other lakes around the world, these magical lakes are only supposed to be admired from afar. No activities are allowed within any of the lakes themselves. This is because people who have fallen into the lake have never survived, and their bodies were never even found. Incidents like these have only added to the mysticism and curiosity about this beautiful place. 7. The Walking Dead Ritual. There is a famous ritual practiced by the Torajan people in Indonesia. It is an annual event and takes place every August. Torajans exhume the bodies of their dead and take care of their appearance. They wash their dead, groom them, and even redress them. For Westerners, digging up the dead may seem disrespectful, but for the Torajans, it is a way to honor them in death. Giving them new clothes makes the dead relevant to their society, and it is considered to be a symbol of great respect. The coffin or the box containing the remains of the dead is also repaired, but they do not bury them immediately. Instead, they often parade the corpses or place them in chairs. Relatives buy cigarettes and accessories for their dead. People also travel to the village for the ritual from distant places. They see it as an opportunity for different generations of the family to get to know each other better. This obviously includes the dead as well. This is why the custom came to be known as the Walking Dead Ritual. What do you think of this custom? Share your thoughts below. 6. Burying babies in trees. Torajans consider babies under the age of 6 to be sacred, so if a baby dies before 6 months, they wrap them with inao leaves and bury them inside the tara tree. This symbolizes the return of the baby into their mother's womb. The tree has to be deemed innocent because the baby was innocent too. Graves like these can still be found in Tanah Toraja. However, the tradition is slowly dying down. It may look strange to outsiders, but the Torajans hold their dead in the highest regard. Most of these people have converted to Christianity or Islam, but there are still a handful who follow the way of their ancestors. 5. Home to the corpse lily. The largest flower in the world is also found in Indonesia. Rafflesia is scattered across the jungles of Sumatra and Borneo, and it is often smelled before it can be seen. This is because of its pungent, unpleasant odor, which has led to its nickname, the corpse lily. These flowers are full of mysteries even today, and that is why researchers and scientists are attracted to them. It is essentially a parasite that infects tropical vines in the forest of Southeast Asia. For most of its life, Rafflesia exists as a system of thread-like filaments that invades its host. At any given time, the parasite produces a cabbage-like bud, which breaks through the bark of the vines and eventually forms a gigantic, 5-lobed, red flower. These flowers can grow up to 3 feet in diameter, weigh up to around 10 kilograms, and produce a foul scent of rotting meat to attract flies. They stay in bloom only for a couple of days or a week at most. This, combined with its unpredictable blooming cycles, makes it very difficult to see one in the wild. New species of this flower are still being discovered, but because of their elusive life cycle, it is very difficult to study them. However, scientists have determined that almost all species of Rafflesia are endangered. This is mainly because of habitat destruction, as these plants thrive in locations that are not protected. The researchers are now working on conservation efforts that include Rafflesia growth outside of their natural habitat. 4. Vampiric beauty standards. For the women on the Mentawai Islands, having pointed teeth is the standard of beauty. Locals believe that a woman with sharp teeth is more appealing and more likely to be happy. She would be at peace for the rest of her life, as compared to a woman with normal teeth. Pointed front teeth do not occur naturally, so the teeth of these women are sharpened using steel and wooden tools. The village chief usually performs the ritual by grinding and carving the woman's teeth. This is a long and grueling process, as the teeth have to be perfectly shaped to a sharp tip. Professional dentists use anesthetics for the pain and have sterilized tools. However, these women are not given any drugs to numb the throbbing pain during the ritual, and the state of the tools is also pretty questionable. Even with globalization, this tradition has survived. People on the Mentawai Islands believe that it is a part of their culture, as it celebrates the beauty and maturity of their women. 3. The Bloody Harvest Festival. In Sumba, there is an annual harvest festival called Pasola. It is held during February or March, and the date of the festival is determined by the arrival of the Nyale seaworm. The festival is to celebrate the rice planting season. The Sumbanese men are divided into two groups, and they engage in a blood sport. They ride horses and throw wooden spears at their opponents. Ancient Sumbanese believed that spilling blood during the game fertilized the land for better harvest. The Pasola is one of the most extravagant and bloodiest harvest festivals practiced today. The blood spilled is supposed to keep the spirits happy and bring a good harvest. Even though they use blunt spears today, the game can still be very brutal. There have been cases of serious injuries and even death. However, the locals do not see it as a loss. They still consider it to be in the honor of the spirit, and that the pain and death will bring better harvest in the future. Before the festival begins, priests in ceremonial dresses wade into the ocean to examine the Nyale worms at dawn. Depending on the appearance of these worms, they can predict how good the year's harvest will be. After this is done, fighting begins on the beach and moves inland afterward. 2. Whale hunting is still a thing. The village of La Malera on the island of Lembata is known as the home of traditional whale hunting. The people here have been hunting large sea animals like manta rays, dolphins, and whales for centuries, and they have been doing it by hand. Even Portuguese documents from 1643 talk about these heroic hunts on the high seas. The fishermen take small sailboats to hunt these creatures to feed their village. This is why the La Malera whale hunts are exempted from the international ban on whaling. It is done traditionally, and these hunts are only to support their meager economy. Every year, whales migrate between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific from May to October. During this time, they pass through the Savu Sea, where the village of La Malera is located. Whale hunting starts in May and reaches its peak in July. Before every hunt, the village gathers for a mass in the Catholic Church. Then the boats are released from the beach as the rest of the people cheer for a successful and safe hunt. Each boat has around 7 to 14 men, and the most agile of them are the harpooners. When a whale is sighted, barbed harpoons are thrown at it, and the harpooner also jumps down, putting his weight to drive it through the animal. If the whale is particularly huge in size, then other harpoons are also thrown to make sure of the kill. The whale is then heaved onto the boats and brought back to the village. During a single season, the whalers can catch somewhere between 15 to 20 whales. However, they do not hunt indiscriminately. It is a taboo to hunt for pregnant whales, young whales, and mating whales. The fishermen from the village are highly experienced, and they can spot these differences almost immediately. 1. Snowy peaks on the equator. Indonesia is a tropical country, and most of it lies directly on the equator. But even then, it has a place that is covered in snow and ice all around the year. Puncak Jaya is a mountain peak on the continent of Oceania. It is located in the province of Papua in Indonesia. Puncak Jaya is part of the Sudirman mountain range. The peak stands at more than 16,000 feet in height, which makes it the tallest mountain on any island in the world. The mountain was first spotted by Jan Carstens in 1623, but other Europeans did not believe his stories about a peak so close to the equator covered with glaciers and snow. Puncak Jaya is one of the handful of tropical mountains in the world with glaciers. However, the Carstens Glacier and Northwall Fern glaciers have shrunk in size in recent years due to climate change and global warming. The Seven Summits Challenge, where mountaineers climb the tallest mountain of every continent, includes Puncak Jaya. Even though it has the lowest elevation out of the rest of the peaks on other continents, it is still considered to be one of the most technically difficult mountains to climb. That's all we have about Indonesia today. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Click on the screen for more content like this. We'll see you there.